I cannot stay behind the lectern, so I'll be wandering around and advancing these slides. I'm going to try to put a large box around smart learning, which is a tremendously complex issue. And I want to use the metaphor of a high-speed train. And what I'm going to try to do is to put down some tracks for the train and tell you what the train looks like in a large way. Because the other presenters here today are going to do the smaller pieces and tell you how this train functions in its smaller parts. So I want to start by telling you a short personal story. I was sort of at the beginning of smart learning, and that sounds like a presumptuous statement itself. I come from a blue-collar family. My father was a factory worker. My mother stayed at home and raised the children, myself and my two brothers. And neither one of them had a high school education. I'm the first person in my family to even graduate from high school. And we did not have the money, my parents did, to send me to a university. So I didn't even take the SATs. At 17 and a half years old, I joined the US Navy. Now, I was 17 and a half years old, so if you want to do the math, I'll save you the chance. I'm 74. In 1962, in the Navy, I was sent to a special school. I was a photographer in the Navy, and they sent me to Rochester Institute of Technology, which was Kodak school at the time. And they sent me there to develop a specialty. And the specialty was reductive microscopic photography. No computers, all on film. I went back after this training to the base, and I worked at a base where there were 150 sailors and 1,500 civilian engineers. And that base was developing basically early computer technology for the United States Navy. My job was to make great big images very, very small. I didn't know why. I was in the Navy. No one told me why I was doing what I was doing, just do it. And one day, two of the engineers, the electronic engineers, brought in a 1 meter square big piece of white plastic with black lines all over it. And for those of you who have not been involved with photography with film, as opposed to digital, the photographic plate is based up of something that will hold a silver smear on it, silver halide. And when you expose that, light things, bright things come out black on a negative, and dark things come out clear on the negative. And on this large meter square were all kinds of black lines, very fine black lines. They wanted me to reduce this 1 meter square piece of plastic with black lines on it to 8 millimeters. It took 3 steps, from 1 meter square to an 8-inch by 8-inch sheet, to a 4 by 4-inch sheet, to an 8 millimeter square sheet. When you're done processing that, the white pieces on that original piece of plastic are black on the little tiny negative. Does anyone know what I just made doing that? I made a circuit board. Because when you hook those little black lines up to wires, you now have a circuit board. 2 weeks later, I was invited to the electronics lab, and they had stacked up 40 of these into a computer. 1962, 19 years old. The only thing I didn't do right after that was go out and buy IBM stock. But I understood the implications, because what they had made, they were using to help US Navy pilots fly very high-tech airplanes more easily. And I understood the implications of that technology. I didn't understand them totally for education yet, but I understood it in general. So let me work you through this in a general way. And as AITA knows, I never do anything in a straight line. I want to start with this because this is what smart technology ultimately is all about. This is the motto for Qualcomm. Lives are changed when people connect. Life is changed when everything connects. What is smart learning? We tend to think of smart learning as e-learning. It is, but it's much more, because smart learning, a larger concept, is building something bigger. John. There we go. Smart learning is an educational ecosystem that uses intelligent technologies like the cloud and many other things in order to gather, analyze, and direct data to improve learning and teaching. And it uses that analyzed data then to develop personalized and adaptive learning. A big piece of smart learning is how to adapt to the individual learning needs of individual students and to continuously adapt those learning experiences to the increasing learning of that student. As I learn more, I need to learn in new and different ways. And so there needs to be a continuous loop of assessment, affirmative assessment, formative assessment, in order to help redesign subsequent learning experiences. Adaptive learning and personalized learning. Now, in order to get you there, I want to take you back into something that's not directly computer related, but it happened to come out, to be published about the same time that computer technology in learning was exploding. There was a man by the name of Howard Gardner who in 1983 published a book called Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences. And Gardner's theory never became important in psychology because a lot of his colleagues didn't feel they could find the empirical knowledge and research to back it up. But it became very important in education. Because all of you who have been teachers know that there's some students who get math and some students who can never get math. And some of those great math students cannot write a clear sentence, or dance, or perform in drama, or draw in art. And Howard Gardner was responding to that understood perception and judgment that teachers make all the time. How do I help a student who doesn't get math learn? And Gardner came up with this theory then of multiple intelligences, which is a variation of the general theory of intelligence. He said that there are many kinds of intelligence. The ones that you and I as college professors teach to most of the time are the first two. Logical, mathematical intelligence. Logic, abstractions, and numbers. Verbal linguistic intelligence, the ability to write clearly, to make sense on paper in reports. That's what we primarily consider to be universally level intelligences. That's what we teach to. That's what our tests are often set up for. But what about the kid who can't do that, but can take an automobile engine apart and put it back together in the dark? That's a kind of intelligence that doesn't respond to these, and that's what Gardner is partially reacting to. He said there's also a verbal spatial intelligence. I, for example, started life out as a photographer, because if you give me words in a direction to get someplace, I could do that by reading it continuously as I move, but if you give me a map and let me look at it, I can go there without those words in that paper, and 10 years later I can find my way back, as long as someone hasn't messed with the roads. Musical rhythmical. There are some of us who have never been able to play the piano, and there are other children who sit down and they just do it. Those 13-year-olds and 12-year-olds who blow us away when they perform for us. Bodily kinesthetic control, sports, dance, music. I'm telling you, I could study ballet until I'm dead, and I would still look terrible up here. I do not have that kind of intelligence. I'm not sure if that's the word, but that's what Gardner said. Interpersonal, sensitivity to others. So social workers, people who really relate to people very well. We know people who would like to go sit in their research carrel and never have to talk to anyone. There are other people who will go crazy in a research carrel. Intrapersonal, self-respect, introspection, people, philosophers, clerics, people who like to study and ask the eternal questions. And what he called naturalistic, people who love to be into the natural world. Now, these intelligences, he said, are not all independent, they operate together. But there are propensities, they have strengths, in some of them, in many of them, or maybe just in a few in some people's cases. He says, and this is his definition, intelligence is a biopsychological potential. It has to be actualized, there has to be discipline, potential to process information that can be activated in a cultural setting. We can't ever miss that piece in Gardner. It's cultural. And culture, by culture, he does not mean Palestinian, American, Western, Eastern. He means there are a lot of personal subcultures. There are a lot of microcultures within cultures. And all those play into what he sees as intelligence. In a cultural setting, to solve problems or create products made in a culture. So the cultural specificity to this. Okay, here we go. All right, now what does that have to do with smart learning? In 1977, this was my first computer. Some of you older people, you more mature people will recognize this. This is the Tandy Radio Shack, TRS-80. 24 kilobytes of memory, and you started the program by putting a cassette in a cassette recorder and loading up all of those 24 kilobytes. Very quickly on the heels of that came this. Okay? That is an Apple IIe. I almost owned one of those, and then they developed the Macintosh, and I went the other way. The Apple II, 1977, the II Plus, the IIe, and then this, the Macintosh, the first Macintosh. Okay, 128 kilobytes, and look at the price of this thing in 1984. I wanted to buy one, and my wife said, "You want to sell your car?" But it was amazing because it had what? The first mouse, and it was graphic user interface. It was not MS-DOS key-coded. It began a revolution. We have laptops, although some of the laptops you could probably get a backache carrying around. These were a couple of them. And then Apple came along with this, known as the clamshell, although some people refer to it as the toilet seat. And then Windows came out. Why did Windows came out? Because Bill Gates' competitor, Mr. Jobs, had come up with the graphic user interface, and Mr. Gates, being a very bright man, understood that graphic user interfaces was going to be the future. And so Windows is basically a GUI Apple emulation process with a terrible coding situation. By that time, I'd taken 3 computer coding courses because I thought I wanted to be a programmer. And then after Fortran, I decided I'd let somebody else do that work, and I'd do something else. So Microsoft Windows comes out, and then we get CAI. And I'd like you to pay attention to CAI. It's Computer Assisted Instruction. It doesn't say anything about Computer Assisted Learning. Instruction. There wasn't yet a consideration of how we might be asking the end user how computers could help them. And what you got basically initially were books to screen. People took textbooks, they coded them in, and it was all rote memory work. Fill in blanks, multiple answers, multiple choice answers. Nothing exciting. AT&T came out with a program called Writer's Workbench. Writer's Workbench was a very complex interactive writing analysis program. And I convinced one of the university I was asked to cough up $90,000 and put in a computer lab dedicated to writing using this program. My only big problem was convincing the faculty in the English department they could use computers. That was another issue. No graphic user interfaces yet, no mouse technologies, no color, all keyboarding, individualized pacing. That was good, but still way behind what we know today. The co-founder of Intel made this statement, which has come to be true, and it's important for where I'm going to take you in the next few minutes. Computer power, microchip processing speed and capacity will double roughly every 2 years at the same innovative cost each period. The World Wide Web started coming. There was no internet connectivity on computers until this. In the early 1980s, the U.S. government had it. And then the National Science Foundation took that a step further and started making it open for non-heavy research governmental-related institutions. And in the early 1990s, the World Wide Web, and we are now in the information age. You still may be asking, what does this have to do with the topic for this conference? I think you can see it, the pieces start to come together. With the World Wide Web, now people in this audience, what's known as the Internet natives, are carrying these things around and learning from them. And the Internet pirates, which is here in my generation, for many of you, are trying to figure out how to keep up with those kids on these things. To them, second nature. Okay, the World Wide Web effect. Internet connected devices. In 1984, in the world, there were 1,000 devices worldwide connected across electronic networks. By 1992, there were 1 million devices connected. Remember Mr. Moore's law? In 2008, 10 billion devices connected. It's estimated that in 2020, this is in Thomas Friedman's new book, Thanks for Being Late, that there will be 50 billion devices connected. If we cannot figure out as educational institutions how to network all of that as our students are tapping into it, how are we going to help them individualize their learning and adaptively learn as they get smarter and smarter? It changes the professoriate. I was a professor. I love to profess. It's wonderful to profess. It's like drama. I get this feedback and I feel good. And I'm the knowledge guy. But the change that's happening here is that the professors are going to stop being the sage on the stage and are going to start being the guides on the side. How do I help my students process this incredible amount of information that's available so I can help them learn faster, more effectively, without becoming obsolete myself, I might note. All right. 20 September, Facebook goes public, 2006. 2007, Twitter, Kindle. 2007, IBM begins work on Watson, a cognitive computer, which we hear every day is teaching itself to learn. And Bill Gates and a lot of the other people have had quite a few bits of discussion online and in public forum about how scary this is. Are we looking at the predator here? How do we unplug something that can teach itself to learn? So there are some really large societal issues with having cognitive computing. AT&T's mobile data usage of their data has increased from 2007-2014 by 100,000%. I'm not even sure sometimes what that means. 1990s, Google, Yahoo, Firefox, and a lot more. Okay, now let me get this back to our topic. What does smart learning try to do? It aims to provide self-adjusting, self-motivated, personalized educational systems that respond to the needs of a variety of learners with a variety of skills. Howard Gardner, keep that in mind. And recognize the learner's competencies, learning styles, and interests. And let me stop a second at learning styles. There is another system that some of you may have used and heard of called the Myers-Briggs Personality Profile. The Myers-Briggs Personality Profile asks people, if there are no restrictions, how best would you like to learn and be? I, for instance, am inherently, and it may not seem like it today, but I'm inherently an introvert, not an extrovert. If I need to restore my energy, I like to take a walk in the woods, not go to a party. The Myers-Briggs talks about different ways that people interact. Are you analytical or intuitive? Are you introverted or are you extroverted? Are you judgmental or non-judgmental? And that profile, the Myers-Briggs, is often used by business and industry to put teams of people together. If you have an introverted leader in a group, on a committee, you need extroverts in that committee who can reach out and pull people in. If you have people who are intuitive and not so judgmental and analytical, you need to balance that off. So it's a way of putting effective teams together. If we consider learners the Howard Gardner issue, and then we ask what are their learning styles in terms of introverted and extroverted, would you be doing better with an introverted student to help them with an individual tutor, or put them in a group learning situation? It's getting more and more complex all the time as we think about the learning. It rests on the formative learning and evaluation. Formative learning is not summative. When we are testing at midterm and at the end, when we are giving the GED, we are doing summative testing. What have you accumulated in knowledge? And it's often more data-based than it is process-based. Okay? Keep timing me, so I don't go too long. Okay? And so we need to ask, are we helping people form and get better and better, or are we just summarizing? And this is based on formative learning. We take what we know. It's a total quality circle process. And what did you know? What didn't you know? How do we go back and pick that up, and how do we advance it? It provides personalized, continuously adjusted assignments based on data analysis, mainly from the sources of assessment. Now we're getting into support systems within universities, not just what goes on in the classroom. And I see Dr. Maher sitting and think, this probably means money. Yes, it does. Okay, because it means support, trained support staff. And a strong emphasis on learner responsibility and self-discipline. And we know how self-disciplined 19-year-olds are. Self-discipline is learned, and it's essential to make this all work. So, what are the critical features? Self-direction by the students, but with active engagement in students in the learning process. An inherent motivation built upon lesson designs, so the lessons themselves have to be effective in responding to some of these issues. Adaptive, adjust to each student's aptitude, background, skills, and learning styles. And the professors in here who are teaching 3, 4, and 5 classes are asking when I'm going to have time to do all this on top of what I'm already doing. And that's another one of the resource challenges in this system. It's resource rich, technologically and human resources, to support staff to analyze the data, to give it feedback, to make it work. The institutional goal, smart learning should create technology-supported learning environments that implement adaptations and provide appropriate support to the right places at the right time based on individual learner needs. This is a UNESCO document. Every administrator in this room is sitting and thinking, oh my heavens, what a challenge this is institutionally. What are the goals of smart learning? Well, you may find out here. Here we go. All right. Primary goal, deep learning, critical thinking processes, problem solving, effective application of principles of knowledge to new and unfamiliar problems, issues, and tasks. And we just heard two of our introductory speakers from industry talk about what they need in terms of students coming out. This is an end-user skills-based, marketable approach to the learning process. Developing each student's capacity to learn and integrate lifelong learning habits, community-based learning, project-based learning. Okay? I want to know about water pollution. And so I sit down, or my student does, I sit down with the student and say, you need mathematics, you need chemistry, you need botany, you need biology, you need a cultural understanding of the particular ecology that you're working in and the culture. And that's what I mean by pulling this all together. And create and implement learning through vehicles like CPL and PPL. All right. Key attributes of a SMART course: learner-centered design, design adaptivity, feedback makes things change. Emphasis on learning by doing, an active, and you saw that in the introductory little film you had. The children doing, learning, hands, hearts, heads, all stuck together. Enabling feedback loops and continuous improvement. Smart learning's characteristics: learner content, adaptive curriculum, formative, self-direction, practical outcomes, culturally informed, community connected, and consequently motivational. If I'm connected to real life situations, I'm more motivated to learn than just giving an assignment. So it responds to 21st century student needs, shifts learning responsibility to the learner, develops a self-motivated learner, and provides teacher institutional with empirical data to improve the educational system. What are some of the challenges? And that's where I want to finish with. Resources, human and financial. Teachers have to be retrained. I talked to a colleague who just retired as the director of the Appalachian Center for Learning in West Virginia. Told him what I was doing. He said, I'm glad I just retired. I don't want to have to learn all this all over again. It is a challenge for the faculty member. Time, faculty development, staff development. TQM, total quality management, complexity, continual analysis, readjustment, replanning, the total quality model. User-friendly technology for our digital natives. You know what your students do if they come to a computer and it doesn't work the way it ought to the minute they touch it. They walk away and find something more user-friendly. So the technology itself needs to be user-friendly to keep the student engaged. That's the money issue. And institutional inertia. Okay, this is the old song, you can get on the screen or you're going to be left behind. And that's where I'd like to end. Am I the right way here? Okay. The smart learning train has left the station, folks. And we can be on it, or we can be run over by it, or we can be left at the station. But there's not much alternative. Your students are going there. How do we go there with them? Thank you very much.